Today we're going to talk about the Diablo 3 PTR 2.7 preview patch notes. We just got this announced earlier today. We've been talking about it all day on stream. Our 2-week PTR testing period for 2.7 begins on February 25th. That is Thursday, chat. Big Thursday. We don't know what time. It could be early. It could be later on in the day. There's going to be your normal changes, 3 PTR unique buffs, legendaries, XP, and blood shards. And then Dank Meme's going to make a return. All the stuff we're pretty much familiar with. This season, we're getting a follower system revamp. So it might be confusing. There's no seasonal theme, right? But this is such a big change to the game that it's kind of replacing the seasonal theme just for this next season. In the future, we confirm that there are going to be seasonal themes. This is just for this season what we're getting. The Diablo 3 system has been revamped and will be made permanently available for season and non-season play. Players can now equip followers with 14 total items. So that's the normal 13 that we have on our character, plus the relic that the followers get. We're also introducing a new follower feature called Emanate. It allows the player to gain the intended effect of a certain legendary power and set bonus when equipped on the hired follower. So basically what that means is all these abilities here on the list, you can get that legendary power of. So let me just kind of put it in perspective right here. Peel the curtain back. You ready? So this is what your follower is going to look like. Obviously they'll have their follower token still. Anything on this list, you can get the legendary power of. So like you don't have to get that GG flavor of time anymore, right? Because you can just give it to your follower and you can wear something else. Also with Nemesis bracers, you can basically if you're playing solo, you get a flavor of time, Nemesis bracers. The things that work normally still work. So like Unities and the Oculus rings, like these things still work normal. You don't have to worry about them. We confirmed it earlier today. We also talked to a dev earlier and they said that right now Ring of Royal Grandeur does not work on your followers, so you can use like the Cane and the Sage set, but it's not finalized and things can change. So it's possible that we'll be able to wear Ring of Royal Grandeur and tie in the Cane set and the Sage set. So this isn't a comprehensive list. We're gonna ask for more things to be added. I'm sure they're gonna add more stuff. This is the first time we've had this. I did take notes earlier on some things that I think would be dope to add to the list. A lot of them are just suggestions from chat. Like somebody asked about immunity amulets. So if you don't want to carry Flavor of Time, maybe having all the immunity amulets on the list just for some variety and to kind of bring them into the fold would be amazing. Illusory boots is another good suggestion, as people hate getting stuck, or they might be a big part of some builds, and just to add more options. I think they should try to make at least 2 solid options per slot. Like maybe the skeletal shoulders with homing pads, you know, the Chrome set might be really good. So you go like Nems for the elite spawning, or you can get Chromes to avoid knockback. And then the belt has a movement speed for speeds as well. So there's a lot of stuff you can do, and that would make us care about Chromes again. Firewalkers, they could add Firewalkers to the list. Apparently Firewalkers are great for breaking doors down, so that might help as well. Another good suggestion was Soj, right? That way you get all the elements for everything on your character. That'd be pretty awesome, because a lot of times you can't fit it for whatever reason, or you don't need the other effects. So Soj would be pretty good and not game breaking. Obviously we could just suggest Convention of Elements, right? But that would be like not in line with what they're showing us here, where something like Soj might be balanced across all classes and not overpowered. Gold Wrap would also be good to add, since we already have Avarice Band here. That would be kind of cool to have that. So you can see there's a lot of room here, you know. Freeing up an amulet slot with Flavor of Time. We can use the Hellfire amulet now. We can use Squirts now in conjunction with it. Having our follower wear Nemesis bracers frees up bracer slots on our main character. One popular question people have been asking me is, will wearing a set on your follower negate your LOD buff? And I'm not sure. We have to test it. That's kind of what the PTR is for. There might be some oversights that they just missed, so I'll get back to you on that. In addition to a full items revamp, there is a skills revamp. Follower skills have been reworked to showcase new and updated skills. Check out the skills change list from below. Scoundrel, crippling shot, an attack that does weapon damage and slows enemies by 80% for 3 to 6 seconds based on dexterity. So it looks like we may or may not have to augment our followers. We don't know how much dexterity we need to get to the 6-second cap. So that's something that we have to figure out and test. Like, will ancients do it? Will we have to augment to get to that 6 seconds? And it doesn't seem like the dexterity affects the weapon damage either, but it might. So it might completely scale with everything dexterity. So it's possible. We may or may not have to augment. We'll have to wait and see. Powered shot, ranged attack that explodes on impact, doing damage, and has a 100% chance to stun enemies for 3 to 6 seconds based on dexterity. So it's a nice stun there. Hysteria. Whenever the Scoundrel lands a crit, you both go into hysterics, increasing all damage done by 3% for 3 to 6 seconds based on the Scoundrel's dexterity. Anatomy. Increase the crit chance up to 4% for you and the Scoundrel based on dexterity. The Scoundrel's looking pretty good for like a DPS option. Multi-shot, it's a passive. The Scoundrel's special attacks have a 50 to 70% chance to fire 3 bolts. Pretty cool. I wonder if on-hit effects will be really good with this. Skill rework, Vanish. This one is good, and just to put it out there, all 3 followers have a cheat death. So to kind of bring it back to the previous one, the previous page right here, you might not have to carry cheat death on hardcore or softcore anymore, because if you're playing solo, because all 3 of them have a cheat death ability. Prevents your death for 3 to 7 seconds. So hopefully they're really good, because if they're not really good, then you're gonna have to carry the passive. So I'll try to fight to make sure that these are top tier. That way it frees up a whole passive slot, right? That's just more damage for us across the board. But yeah, we don't know how long the cooldown is, but that's a really good question. New skill, Knight's Veil. The Scoundrel launches a cloud that covers a 20-yard area, lasts 5 to 10 seconds based on dexterity. All attacks against enemies will be critical hits. So this is the big banger from the Scoundrel. It's a 20-yard AoE cone, and you have guaranteed crits. So this could be really insane DPS combo with, like, if you can time it with CoE somehow. I don't know, maybe recouping our CoE to try to land it. I don't know how it's gonna work, but if you can, that's gonna be a nice DPS increase. And this could be really good for like big single target hits, like a bazooka build or something like that. New skill, Piercing Shot. Ranged attack that pierces and increases damage done to enemies by 10%. So all 3 followers have a cheat death that they give you, and all 3 followers give you a 10% damage buff to enemies. So this is the Scoundrel's version of that. It pierces and increases damage done to enemies by 10%. Really good for RGK or just in general. And then they remove some of the old skills here. Templar. So where the Scoundrel's about like critting, the Templar is about healing. And this confirms a little bit that your strength of your Templar will scale the skills. So heal and loyalty, right? Heals the heal, and then loyalty is the healing region passive. They scale based on the Templar's strength. So in this case, if you did use the Templar, you probably would have to augment, right? To get that full effect. Unless there's a hard cap that we know about, and then we would just recommend you get to that level. They'll probably be in all the descriptions of my build videos as well. Intimidate. Enemies that hit or are hit by the Templar are slowed 3 to 6 seconds based on strength. Charge, just like before, AoE stun, 3 to 6 seconds. A 6-second stun is a lot, man, based on the Templar strength. Taunt enemies, just like before, kind of, on the Templar strength when you are hit. Skill rework, Onslaught. Delivers a massive blow to an enemy for 800% weapon damage and causes the target to take 10% increased damage. So this is kind of cool. Same thing, right? The 10% we talked about across the board. Rework Guardian. When you take fatal damage, so this is the cheat death version of it. This seems to be a little bit stronger as it gives you a shield, shielding you from all damage for 5 seconds. I'm gonna fight for all of them to have the same cheat death. That way it's not like a deciding factor on what we pick. You know, that way there's more freedom. But this seems to be one of the strongest ones. Enchantress, Erosion, conjures a pool of energy that does weapon damage, 5 to 7 seconds based on intelligence, and then affected enemies will also take 10% increased damage. Focused Mind, increase attack speed up to 6%. That's a lot, dude. It used to be 3 only. So now you can get your Enchantress to give you 6% attack speed juice. Man, that'd be great for like Frenzy Barb, you know, Impale, like any kind of fast attacking. Reduce damage by 6 from range attacks, increase armor, slows melee. And for you and the Enchantress based on her intelligence. New skill, Temporal Pulse. The Enchantress casts a guided orb that does damage, slows enemies based on intelligence. This one's kind of interesting. Increase your highest static elemental bonus by 5%. So it's not that much, up to 10%. So if you have like 100 fire damage, you'll have 110% fire damage, I'm assuming, based on intelligence. Prophetic Harmony. This is also a really good one if you really need CDR, right? Reduce your cooldowns by 5 to 10%. So some builds, maybe like your Necromancers, maybe live or dying based on cooldown, keeping up that Wrath of Berserker, keeping up Akarat's Champion. So this might actually free up stats, you know? Fate's Lapse. When you take fatal damage, so this is her cheat death. It says she speeds up your movement speed. So movement through time, actually. So I don't know if this makes you not targetable, like movement through time, you're like phased out, or do you just run really fast? If you run really fast, you might just die anyway. So I'm not sure how it's gonna go. We have to test it. By reworking and adding follower skills, expanding the follower's equipment set, introducing Emanate, we believe followers will be more meaningful and provide a greater utility for the single player experience. So this is like a single player patch. And I agree, man, like I'll be more attached to my character. Like, so this is our follower buddy, right? Like, you know, I'll be like completely handcrafting the gear, looking for upgrades, not only on my character, but also on my follower. Moving on to solo leaderboard update. Greater Rift solo leaderboards now contain filters to sort by. So this means that all the class sets have their own leaderboard. It's not based on builds, right? It's based on class sets. So Trigul, Rathma will be separate. And then Lan has its own leaderboard, the Lan leaderboard, I guess. And then there'll be an overall. So this will be like the main one for everything. Someone in chat said this helps the meta slaves. Yeah, it really does. It really does. You can feel maybe competitive playing Leapquake, right? If you want to play a Seismic Slam Barb, right, or something like that. In their current form, the solo leaderboards are great at showcasing the strongest builds of each class, but tend to only highlight a small percentage of the wide variety of builds that players have available to them. We want to empower the community to play their favorite set and be represented on the leaderboard. That's cool. And I think what it does for Blizzard maybe is it might show them what sets are truly underperforming. They might always have been able to organize it internally, but now maybe it's easier for them to kind of see what's really good, what's not so good, and then they can buff accordingly. Season rewards, 2 unique rewards. We're getting a portrait frame and we're getting a pet, but these won't be on the PTR on Thursday. Item changes, Bones of Rathma. This whole Rathma set is really confusing, just to want to jump out there and say it. Like, it kind of it suffers from an identity crisis. I'm going to kind of read through it with you guys. It looks like a Bone Spirit set though, okay? Your minions reduce the cooldown of Army of the Dead by 1 second each time they deal damage. Your Skeletal Warriors spawn faster, which is nice. And revived minions no longer expire. So you think like, wait, you're going to make a revive set, but no, it's still not the revive set. Feels bad, man. The 4-piece, your minions no longer take damage, which is another huge thing. You gain 1% damage reduction for 15 seconds each time your minions deal damage, a maximum of 75 stacks. And then the 6-piece, each active minion increases the damage of Army of the Dead and Bone Spirit by 1,000. This might be enough to spam Army of the Dead, but with the cooldown being so long, I'm not sure how it's gonna work. It's gonna be a lot of Bone Spirit. So I wish they would have made a revive set, but I'm gonna hold judgment until I get to actually play it. You know, like I want to get my hands on it and kind of see the vision, and maybe I'll get on board with it. But Bone Spirit is really slow and kind of clunky. The animation's cool, and it's like one of the coolest looking abilities in the game. One thing I could say is the damage is out of this world, right? 400 to 500% for every second it's active, and it also freezes enemies on impact. I'm assuming proccing Crispin. It would proc before probably, so it gets the modifier. So it's really strong. This is probably going to be RGK if nothing were to change, right? It's still early PTR. Buffs and nerfs can happen at any moment. They added a new item, Bonds of Selena. So I'm assuming this is a bracer. Army of the Dead and Bone Spirit deal damage. Bone Spirit deals an additional 2% damage for 5 seconds. Wait, for 5 seconds each time Army of the Dead hits an enemy. This is just crazy damage for Bone Spirit. So I would prefer an Army of the Dead build where you can, the cooldown's up a lot and it's almost like Pronado, where you're like sprinting around dropping Army of the Dead bombs everywhere. I feel like that's cooler, you know, but we'll see how it shakes out. A lot of builds like Patterns of Justice Monk have changed so much over the PTR. This might be one of them. We'll see. We recognize that Bones of the Rathma set plays similarly to other Necro builds. Our goal is to preserve the fantasy of the set while maintaining diversity among the Necro sets. The second set that got buffed was Firebird, man. This one's looking really fun. This one looks like it has more of an identity, and it's closer to print. When you die, a meteor falls from the sky, revives you, so that's still in the game. Disintegrate ignites enemies, causing them to take 3000% weapon damage until they die, which is incredible for the GR20 clear early season. This is really strong. The 4-piece, you gain 80% damage reduction and 4000 increased damage when ignite is applied to a target. So you can see you're igniting with Disintegrate. Casting Disintegrate adds combustion stacks that reduce the cooldown of teleport by 2%, and it stacks up to 50 times. My immediate feedback would be to put 80% damage reduction on the stacks, because what the original Firebird suffered from was when an enemy wasn't ignited, you lost all your damage buff and then you get killed, and it's not fun. So I would definitely put it on the stacks because it doesn't look like the stacks are getting consumed. It's a small change. I have confidence that they'll do it. Another bit of feedback is teleport. We already have Aetherwalker that we can teleport freely, and it's not good. They need to remove the GCD on teleport to even make it comparable with other sets. I would almost prefer if they just gave us movement speed, like 100% movement speed like Necros get, then teleport cooldown, or both, I don't know, teleport and movement speed. It's really weird having teleport on a set where you're stopping to cast Disintegrate. But again, I'm gonna play it, see how it feels, you know, and before I have judgment. This is just my early impressions of it, but on paper, it is kind of contradictory to me a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. The 6-piece, hitting an ignited enemy with a fire spell other than Disintegrate deals ignite damage. This is where it gets interesting a little bit, multiplied by combustion stacks. So you're basically gonna be holding down Disintegrate, charging, and like Star Pact, you're gonna cast another fire spell, like Meteor, and just blow it up. And the damage, like the Bone Spirit, is like, this is like broken numbers. This is like 150,000 damage buff, right? It's really, really strong. I'm assuming all these are gonna get toned down because they're kind of bonkers right now. One thing I was wondering is if the Archon, because when you pop Archon, you do like a Fire Nova, and that is like a 3,200 damage. I don't know if that counts as a spell, because it does say Fire Spell. If that counts as a fire spell, that's gonna be the meta. You're gonna hold Disintegrate, pop Archon, the big Fire Nova is gonna multiply with combustion stacks. If it does work, if the ability works with combustion stacks, then it all worked together. If the spell doesn't matter and it's just like a way to ignite it, then you probably just use a generator or something like that. I don't know. I think this is really cool and they did a good job on it. Obviously, I would tweak a few things, but overall, I mean, it's pretty great. It even says, Firebird Finery is due for a rebirth. We have overhauled the set to breathe new life. Get it? Rebirth? New life into it while allowing the player to incinerate the forces of hell. Now for the bad news, chat. Gears of the Dreadlands, the God set. Hungering Arrow now pierces a maximum of 2 times only, which is a massive nerf. Massive nerf. It says, developer note, we toned down the number of pierces to address the concerns when interacting with missile dampening. Missile dampening is that bubble that some mobs have, like the affix. And then when the Hungering Arrow would pass through, it would just completely slow down and just brrr, it would just hit the mob so many times. And then it would come back, right? And then it comes back. Brrr. It's like having, you can pull the whole map. You can it increased the fish time dramatically. It was not good, but I liked it because it was like a clever use of game mechanics. So it sucks that they nerfed the whole set because of this. I'm confident that we'll come to a middle ground, right? To where it's not so broken. Time titties? I never thought of it like that. If you don't know how bad piercing 2 times is, think about all the times you fought a Rift Guardian 1v1. It's really slow and painful. That's 2 pierces. It just hits the Guardian and comes back. that's about the speed you'll be killing almost everything. Really slow. It needs to get buffed. They need to figure something else out because right now it's just not there. But again, it's still PTR. Things can change. If it was up to me, I don't know the coding, but I would just remove Hungering Arrow and Missile Dampening's interaction. Like I would make it so if Hungering Arrow passes through Missile Dampening, it's like it's not even there. And then you never have to worry about it, right? It's really weird just to do all this for one thing. But maybe there's other limitations we're not aware of. I don't know. Nerf number 2, the Gazing Demise, man. So what they did, this is kind of hard to understand. What they did basically was they took Gazing Demise, which was like a 450% multiplier, and they nerfed it down to 150. So it should knock it down a little bit, but it won't be like too bad. The only problem, I guess, for me is like Witch Doctor doesn't have much going for them, to be honest. Like they have Dagger of Darts, you know, but there's not that much going for Witch Doctor. So to take down their only build, it does seem a little, but maybe they have plans in the future to buff other sets. It says Mundanugu's Regalia is overperforming compared to other sets. This change to Gazing Demise should simplify the gameplay mechanic while reducing its damage output. So we'll see how bad it is. I honestly think this is like maybe 3 to 4 GRs, and then I think the God set is like 15 GRs. I really think it's catastrophic. Blackthorn Jousting Mail, these are the Blackthorn pants. Now they have an elemental damage property on it. So you don't have to farm Swampies anymore with Witch Doctor, you'll just get them, right? So every class has access to Blackthorns. So every lawn build might be wearing Blackthorns, I guess, besides Witch Doctor. They might wear Swamplands or something just for the style points, or if you get a Primal or something like that. I think that's a pretty cool quality of life change. Because they changed the Necromancer Rathma set around so much, they also redesigned the set dungeon. So instead of Revive, now it's Raise, Skeletal Mages. One of the questions we get is, will your armory save all this stuff? And as of right now, we don't know. Probably the most popular question we get is, yo, Blood, when is the season gonna start? And we have no idea, honestly. One thing we do know is the PTR is on Thursday, and typically it's gonna last 2 weeks. So my guess is early April. I'm thinking April 2nd or 9th. I don't know how much Blizzard cares about the holiday weekend here. So the first 2 Fridays of April is probably looking like what it's gonna be to me anyway. So overall, pretty solid patch. I'll definitely keep everyone up to date. If you don't mind hitting the like on that video, it really does help the channel grow.